Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, nothing works? You wake up with energy in your heart, plans in your mind, but the world around you refuses to cooperate. Every step feels heavy, every effort seems wasted. You see others moving forward easily, while you are stuck in the same place, and wonder why life is so unfair. The truth is, feeling stuck is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you are human, and you are at a turning point. Life does not always give us smooth paths. Sometimes it challenges us to our core. Sometimes it pushes us to the edge, so we can discover strength we never knew existed. When everything seems impossible, the real secret is not in forcing solutions or trying harder. The secret is in understanding the pattern behind the struggle, noticing the small shifts in your thoughts, your actions, and your energy that can change everything. This book is for anyone who has tried and failed, for anyone who feels exhausted and defeated, for anyone who wonders if success or happiness will ever come. It is not about quick fixes or magic formulas. It is about reality, about recognizing the truths that everyone avoids, about discovering simple actions and shifts that transform your life from chaos to clarity. You will read stories of people like Sarah, the entrepreneur, who almost gave up on her dreams until she learned to pause and reflect. You will read about Raj, the software developer, who failed repeatedly until he analyzed his approach and took focused action. You will see Maya, the artist, who struggled to create until she found joy in the process. You will meet Priya, the woman who thought she could never be healthy until she changed her mindset. These are not fairy tales. These are real people taking real steps and discovering that what seems impossible can become easy when approached the right way. The key principle of this book is simple yet powerful. Focus on one meaningful action consistently. Pause, observe, learn, adjust, and repeat. This approach works not because it is flashy, but because it aligns with reality. It respects the way the mind and life work. It acknowledges that motivation is fleeting, but systems and focus create lasting results. As you read this book, you will discover that when nothing works, there is always a way to turn the tide. You will learn to stop fighting and start flowing, to stop panicking and start planning, to stop overthinking and start acting. You will uncover the mindset shifts, habits, and practical strategies that transform struggle into momentum, that turn frustration into clarity, that make life feel lighter and easier. By the end of this journey, you will not only understand why nothing worked before, you will know exactly what to do to make everything easier. You will be ready to take control of your life, not through luck or talent, but through focused action, consistent practice, and mindful reflection. You will see that the path from stuck to unstoppable is simpler than you ever imagined. This book is your guide, your companion, your reality check, and your motivator. It is written for those who are tired of trying and failing, those who are ready to discover the simple but profound truths that turn struggle into ease. So turn the page, breathe deeply, and prepare to learn the one thing that changes everything. Chapter 1. The moment you feel stuck. There is a moment in everyone's life when it feels like the world has stopped moving, when every effort seems to bounce off invisible walls, when no matter how hard you try, nothing works. It forces you to see what you are made of and what you have been ignoring. It forces you to ask the question that most people avoid: why is nothing working? This feeling is universal and timeless. It is not a reflection of your ability or your potential. It is a signal from life that something needs to change. Sarah was 27 when she started her first business. She had passion, ideas. She worked day and night, meeting clients, sending emails, designing products, and chasing leads. But no matter what she did, the results were minimal. The emails went unanswered, the meetings were canceled, and her energy slowly faded. She reached a point where she considered giving up completely. She asked herself over and over, why am I failing? Why does everything feel impossible? It was at this low point that Sarah discovered the first secret of turning struggle into progress. She paused. She stopped trying to force results. She stopped pushing against the walls and instead sat down with a notebook and asked herself two questions. What is truly important to me, and what is blocking me from achieving it? She realized she had been focusing on outcomes like sales and approvals rather than on the process of learning, creating, and connecting. She had been chasing results instead of building her skills network and mindset. This small shift in perspective did not solve everything overnight, but it opened a door. The moment you feel stuck is often the most powerful moment of your life. It is the moment when reflection becomes your superpower. When you stop fighting and start observing, you notice patterns you never saw. You notice the decisions that led to dead ends, the habits that drained your energy, and the mindset that limited your potential. Raj experienced this when he failed to get his dream job as a software developer. He applied to dozens of companies, sending generic resumes, feeling defeated after every rejection. He considered quitting coding altogether, but one evening he decided to stop and look at the bigger picture. He reviewed his applications, his interviews, and his learning path. He noticed he was applying to jobs he was not ready for and not tailoring his approach to the companies he loved. He realized the problem was not his skill, but his strategy. Once he adjusted his approach to focus on preparation research and quality over quantity, he started getting interviews and offers that matched his passion. Feeling stuck is also a reminder that life is not a straight line. It is a web of ups and downs, of experiments, successes, and failures. It is a signal that you need to reset your focus and realign with what matters most. Maya, an artist in her early 30s, felt stuck for years. She created paintings she thought were beautiful, but no one bought them. She tried following trends, copying popular styles, and promoting her work aggressively, but nothing worked. One day she visited galleries, observed color strokes, and the emotions behind other artists' work. She stopped painting to sell and started painting to express her own emotions. The moment she connected with her authentic creativity, her work started attracting attention and buyers without her trying hard. The universal truth is that when nothing works, it is not because you are weak or unlucky. It is because you are moving without clarity, pushing without observation, and acting without reflection. The first step to change everything is to recognize the moment you feel stuck, not as a failure, but as an opportunity. The moment you feel lost is the moment life is giving you a chance to pause, learn, and grow. It is an invitation to reflect on what you are doing, what you want, and what needs to change. In this chapter, we understand that being stuck is not permanent. It is temporary. It is a signal. It is a door waiting to be opened with awareness, patience, and strategic action. It is also a lesson in humility and courage, a lesson that reminds you that life is not about pushing endlessly, but about moving intelligently, that it is not about winning instantly, but about learning consistently, and that even when everything seems impossible, small mindful shifts in thought and action can change everything. When you feel stuck, pause and breathe. Ask yourself what is truly important. Identify what is draining your energy. Notice what is working, even if it is small. Start with small, manageable actions. Observe the results, adjust your approach, and keep moving forward. The simple truth is that nothing works when you try to force it, but everything becomes easier when you start focusing on the right things with awareness and persistence. By the end of this chapter, you should understand that feeling stuck is not a curse. It is a turning point. It is the moment when you can step back, reflect, realign, and take the first step toward making your life easier, more fulfilling, and more aligned with your goals. You are not alone. Everyone experiences it, but only those who pause and act strategically transform their struggle into progress. Chapter 2. Understanding the core of failure. They think they are not smart enough, not talented enough, not capable enough. They push harder, work longer, and feel frustrated when the results do not come. They think the problem is them, but the truth is, failure is rarely about personal weakness. Failure is a signal, a message from life that something in your approach, mindset, or strategy is misaligned. Take Raj, the software developer, who applied to dozens of companies and failed to get interviews. He initially thought he was inadequate and lost confidence in his abilities. He questioned his choices and considered quitting coding altogether. But when he paused to analyze his approach, he realized that his failure was not about skill, but about alignment. He was applying randomly without understanding the company's needs. He was sending generic resumes instead of tailoring his application, and he was chasing quantity over quality. Once he understood the core problem, he shifted his strategy. He studied company cultures, researched the roles. He was interested and prepared thoroughly for interviews, and focused on building meaningful connections rather than sending countless applications. His results changed dramatically within months. Failure works the same way in every area of life. It is a teacher, not an enemy. It is a mirror reflecting where your methods are flawed, where your mindset is limiting, and where your actions are unfocused. Consider Sarah, the entrepreneur who struggled with her first business. She was putting in hours, endlessly creating products and sending proposals, but her efforts yielded little. Because she had not identified the core problem, she felt frustrated, overwhelmed, and exhausted. It was only when she stepped back and reflected on her approach that she realized she was chasing results without building relationships, understanding her customers, or learning from feedback. Once she focused on understanding her audience and testing small ideas rather than chasing big wins, she began to see progress. The core of failure is often simple yet overlooked. It arises when your actions are disconnected from reality, when your effort is not guided by understanding, and when your mindset is operating under hidden assumptions. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of making mistakes, often drives people to either freeze or overcompensate. They try too hard to control outcomes instead of focusing on process and learning. The irony is that failure only persists when we ignore the lessons it offers. Take Maya, the artist, who tried to follow trends. She thought she needed to copy what was popular to succeed, and spent months creating work that felt hollow and uninspiring. She measured success by likes, sales, and recognition rather than authenticity. Her failure was a result of focusing on external validation rather than internal alignment. Once she shifted her focus to expressing herself authentically and learning from each painting, her work began to resonate with people and recognition came naturally. Understanding the core of failure requires deep observation. It requires honesty about what is working, what is not, and why. You must strip away excuses, comfort, and pride, and look clearly at your habits, choices, and beliefs. Take Priya, who struggled with her fitness journey. She blamed her job stress, her age, and lack of time for not exercising. She failed repeatedly until she examined her reality. She realized that small actions, done consistently, mattered more than waiting for perfect conditions. She started with 5 minutes of movement daily and gradually increased it. Once she focused on realistic and achievable actions instead of grand plans, she achieved results she had thought impossible. Reality-based understanding of failure also teaches you that perfection is not required and progress is not linear. Life rarely moves in a straight line. There will be days when nothing works, even if you are doing everything right. This does not mean you are failing. It means life is testing your patience, persistence, and perspective. Every setback is an opportunity to learn and recalibrate. Every obstacle is a chance to sharpen your strategy and strengthen your mindset. The next time you feel stuck or defeated, ask yourself what is truly causing the failure. Are you missing information? Are you acting without clarity? Are you guided by fear? Are you ignoring feedback? Are you trying to control outcomes instead of focusing on process? Once you identify the root cause, the path forward becomes clearer. David wanted to write a book for years, but every attempt failed. He tried writing long chapters in one sitting and pushed himself to produce massive content at once. He was overwhelmed and eventually stopped. He realized that the core issue was his approach, not his ability. He broke down his task into 100 words daily and focused on consistency rather than intensity. Slowly the book began to take shape. His failure turned into a system of small wins. Failure is never final unless you stop analyzing, learning, and adjusting. It is a compass pointing you toward what needs attention. It is a test of whether you will continue acting with awareness or fall into repeated patterns. When you understand the core of failure, you stop fearing it. You start seeing it as feedback. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. By understanding failure deeply, you can transform it into a tool that makes everything easier. You see that results do not come from blind effort or endless struggle. They come from insight, reflection, and aligned action. You see that nothing works until you understand why it does not, and everything becomes possible when you correct the misalignment. This chapter teaches that failure is never about lack of potential. It is about lack of clarity, focus, and strategy. It is about not observing patterns and not adjusting approach. It is about letting fear and assumptions guide action. Once you decode failure, its lessons become your greatest allies, and the path that once seemed impossible becomes achievable. Chapter 3. The Power of Pausing. In a world obsessed with speed, movement, and constant action, the idea of pausing feels counterintuitive. You are taught to push harder, work longer, and chase results relentlessly. But the truth is, when nothing works, the most powerful action you can take is to stop, to pause, to step back and breathe. Pausing is not giving up. It is not weakness. It is a strategic choice that allows clarity, focus, and energy to return. Imagine Sarah, the entrepreneur from the previous chapters. She had been running her business nonstop for months, sending emails, designing products, meeting clients, and attending events, but her growth was minimal, and her energy was drained. She was on the verge of giving up. Then one day she simply paused. She canceled meetings for a morning and took a walk without thinking about work. She brought a notebook and started writing down everything she was feeling and everything that had happened in the last months. She wrote about her struggles, her wins, her mistakes, and her hopes. She observed patterns she had ignored. She realized that she had been trying to force sales and results without building the relationships and processes that mattered the most. Pausing allowed her to see the bigger picture. She noticed what actions were truly moving her business forward and what was wasting energy. She realized she could take small intentional steps daily rather than trying to control everything at once. This pause turned her confusion into clarity and exhaustion into energy. Pausing works in all areas of life, not just business. Take Maya, the artist who had been struggling to sell her paintings. She had been creating work obsessively, trying to follow trends and copy what was popular. But nothing resonated with buyers. She felt frustrated and defeated until she decided to pause. She stopped creating for a week. She visited galleries, observed other artists' work not to copy, but to learn. She noticed the emotions conveyed in colors, the subtlety of brushstrokes, and the way the audience responded. She reflected on her own work and her own emotions, and realized she had been trying to please others instead of expressing herself authentically. That pause allowed her to reconnect with her creativity, and her next pieces resonated deeply with people. Her confidence returned, and her art began to gain recognition. Pausing is also about observation. It is about stepping back from the noise and distractions to notice patterns, feedback, and opportunities. You can pause in your work by reviewing your actions and results. You can pause in life by reflecting on your goals and values. You can pause in relationships by listening deeply instead of reacting immediately. The pause gives space for insight and strategy. It is the bridge between frustration and understanding. Consider Raj, the software developer. He had been applying for jobs, relentlessly sending resumes to dozens of companies each day, feeling discouraged when no responses came. He was on the brink of quitting coding until he paused. One evening, he decided to review his applications. He looked at which companies responded, which did not, which interviews went well, and which failed. He realized he was sending generic applications instead of tailoring them, and he was applying to roles misaligned with his skills. Once he paused to analyze his actions and results, he was able to create a focused approach and soon began getting interviews and offers. Pausing does not require grand gestures. It can be as simple as taking 5 minutes to breathe deeply and reflect before making a decision. It can be a walk in nature without thinking about work. It can be journaling about your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Pausing creates a space where clarity emerges, where the power of pausing is not just in reflection, it is in preparation for action. Once you pause, you can identify the most meaningful steps to take. You can prioritize what truly matters. You can notice small changes that can create momentum. You can act from focus rather than from desperation or frustration. Take David, the aspiring writer who struggled to finish his book. He tried writing long chapters in one sitting, forcing ideas to come, and ended up frustrated and blocked. Then he paused. He decided to write only a few hundred words each day, to focus on quality instead of quantity. He reflected on his ideas and structured his content in a way that aligned with his vision. That pause created a framework and momentum that eventually led him to finish his book with ease. Pausing also teaches patience. It reminds you that life does not always move according to your schedule. That it is okay to step back and regroup. That struggle is temporary, and insight emerges when you allow space for it. When you pause, you honor the process instead of obsessing over the outcome. And the universe has a way. The truth is, when nothing works, the instinct is to push harder. But pushing without pause often leads to burnout, frustration, and repeated mistakes. Pausing allows you to break the cycle, to observe, to realign, and to act with purpose. Every successful entrepreneur, artist, professional, and athlete has learned the power of the pause. The pause allows you to reset your mind, body, and energy, to notice the subtle clues that guide success, and to prepare for meaningful action. By embracing the power of pausing, you learn that inaction in the right moment is more powerful than blind action. Pausing allows reflection, observation, insight, and preparation. It transforms struggle into understanding and confusion into clarity. When nothing works, the pause is the first step toward making everything easier. Chapter 4. Small actions that multiply. When nothing works, it is easy to feel overwhelmed. You look at the big picture, the enormous task, the endless to-do list, and the impossible expectations, and feel paralyzed. You try to do everything at once, thinking that more effort equals faster results. But the truth is the opposite. Trying to move mountains in a single day often leads to exhaustion, frustration, and giving up. The real secret is in the power of small actions done consistently over time. Small actions multiply. Take David, the aspiring writer. He had dreamed of writing a book for years, but every time he sat down to write, he became overwhelmed by the thought of hundreds of pages. He tried to force long chapters in a single sitting and ended up frustrated, abandoning the effort multiple times. Then he decided. Yet after 1 week, he had 700 words. After 1 month, he had 2,800 words. And in a year, he had a completed manuscript. The small daily action multiplied, and momentum built naturally without stress or burnout. Small actions work because they create consistency. They build habits. They create momentum. They shift your mindset from fear of failure to confidence in progress. Consider Sarah, the entrepreneur. She had been struggling to grow her business. She felt that unless she secured a major client, she would fail. She kept pushing large proposals and attending countless meetings with little result. Then she changed her approach. She focused on one small task every day, connecting with one potential client or improving one aspect of her product. Each small action compounded over weeks. She started seeing steady growth rather than chasing sporadic wins. Maya, the artist, also discovered the power of small actions. She wanted to build her reputation and sell her artwork, but large efforts to market herself felt exhausting and ineffective. She decided to take one small action each day. She shared one painting on social media, or contacted one gallery, or spent 30 minutes experimenting with a new technique. Slowly her audience grew, her confidence increased, and opportunities multiplied. The small daily steps created a ripple effect far greater than her initial expectations. Small actions also reduce fear and resistance. When you focus on tiny manageable steps, the pressure decreases and your energy increases, the mind does not feel threatened, and the heart remains motivated. Priya, who struggled with fitness, started with just 5 minutes of daily movement. She did not focus on losing weight immediately or running long distances. She focused on showing up consistently. After weeks, her strength and stamina increased. After months, her health improved dramatically. The simple act of starting small multiplied into significant results. The principle of multiplication applies not only to skills and habits, but also to mindset. When you focus on small wins, your confidence grows. Your motivation strengthens and your perspective shifts from scarcity to possibility. Each small success compounds and creates belief in your ability to achieve bigger goals. Raj, the software developer, experienced this in his job search. He started applying to just one company a day with personalized resumes and thoughtful preparation. At first, the results were slow, but over time the responses increased. He got interviews, he improved his skills, and ultimately he landed his dream role. The small actions multiplied into tangible career success. Another reason small actions multiply is that they make learning possible. Every attempt, even if imperfect, teaches you something. You notice patterns, you adjust your approach, and you refine your skills. Each small action becomes a feedback loop, and over time you improve exponentially. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions or big breakthroughs, you learn in real time and build confidence steadily. The key is to start with clarity and intention. Choose one meaningful action that aligns with your goals. Break it into tiny steps. Commit to doing it consistently. Observe the results. Adjust your approach based on what you learn. Repeat every day. The momentum will build naturally, and before you realize it, what once seemed impossible becomes achievable. Think of life as a compound interest account. Your effort does not need to be massive every day. The small deposits of consistent action multiply over time into extraordinary results. Small actions reduce overwhelm, build confidence, create momentum, and produce long-lasting change. They are the bridge between frustration and ease. When nothing works, the instinct is to try harder, push more, or chase big results. But the most effective approach is the opposite. Focus on small, meaningful actions and allow them to multiply. Focus on one step today, one step tomorrow, and one step the next day. Small actions done consistently over time create exponential growth and turn struggle into progress. By embracing small actions, you understand that progress does not need to be overwhelming or instant. It can be steady, manageable, and sustainable. Each tiny effort compounds into results that transform your life. Small actions multiply, and in the process, make everything easier without forcing outcomes or exhausting yourself. Chapter 5. Mindset shifts that change everything. When nothing works, it is easy to blame circumstances, luck, or other people. But the truth is, the hardest battles are often in the mind. The stories we tell ourselves, the beliefs we hold, and the patterns of thought we repeat determine whether we feel stuck or empowered. Often we are our own greatest obstacle. Fear, doubt, and limiting beliefs create She imagined that every workout had to be perfect, and every meal had to be flawless. She focused on what she could not do, and on reasons she would fail. The result was inaction and repeated frustration. Then she shifted her mindset. She reframed her goal from losing weight to gaining strength and energy. She focused on showing up consistently rather than achieving perfection. She celebrated small progress and allowed herself grace when she stumbled. This shift in thinking transformed her experience. Exercise became enjoyable, her energy increased, and her results exceeded her expectations. Mindset shifts are not about pretending that life is easy or ignoring challenges. They are about changing the lens through which you see challenges. They are about replacing fear and resistance with curiosity and possibility. They are about asking, what can I learn, instead of why is this happening to me? David, the aspiring writer, had struggled to complete his book for years. He thought he had to be inspired or have a perfect plan before writing. Anything less felt like failure. Each time he tried, he gave up in frustration. Then he changed his mindset. He decided to focus on showing up daily and writing imperfectly. He reframed failure as feedback and progress as the real reward. By removing the pressure of perfection, he found joy in writing and completed his book. Mindset shifts also help you take control when external circumstances seem impossible. Sarah, the entrepreneur, had faced rejection after rejection in her business. She felt defeated and doubted her abilities. She realized that she was defining success by immediate results rather than by learning and growth. She shifted her mindset to focus on what she could control, the actions she could take, and the lessons she could learn. She began tracking small wins and refining her approach. Each action became purposeful, and her results started to improve. Another important shift is from scarcity thinking to abundance thinking. Scarcity thinking makes you focus on what you lack, fear competition and comparison. It drains energy and limits creativity. Abundance thinking focuses on possibilities, opportunities, and solutions. It encourages collaboration and innovation. Raj, the software developer, experienced this shift when he stopped comparing himself to other candidates and instead focused on improving his own skills and preparing thoroughly. Each small improvement compounded into a confident performance, and he eventually landed a role that matched his passion. Mindset is also about resilience and perspective. It is about understanding that setbacks are temporary and challenges are opportunities for growth. Maya, the artist, struggled to find recognition and felt discouraged by slow progress. She reframed her obstacles as part of the learning process. She focused on expressing herself authentically rather than chasing validation. Over time, her resilience allowed her to consistently create work that resonated deeply with her audience. The common thread in all these examples is that success does not begin with external conditions. It begins with the mind. The way you perceive your challenges, your failures, and your opportunities shapes your actions and results. Every breakthrough in life starts with a shift. The key mindset shifts include believing that struggle is temporary, that small actions compound, that failure is feedback, that progress matters more than perfection, and that focus and consistency beat random effort. These shifts allow you to move from frustration to clarity, from doubt to confidence, and from stagnation to momentum. When nothing works, the instinct is to panic, push harder, or blame yourself. But the most effective strategy is to examine your mindset. Notice the stories you tell yourself. Replace limiting beliefs with empowering ones. Reframe challenges as opportunities. Focus on what you can control and take consistent small actions with awareness. Mindset shifts create the foundation on which everything else becomes possible. By cultivating these mental frameworks, you learn that reality is shaped as much by perception as by circumstance. You gain control over your responses and energy. You transform internal resistance into motivation. You see pathways where before there were walls. And when the mind aligns with intention and action, everything that once felt impossible begins to feel achievable. Chapter 6. Reality, check, and action. When nothing works, it is easy to get lost in frustration, confusion, and wishful thinking. You imagine the life you want, but feel overwhelmed by the gap between where you are and where you hope to be. Many people respond to this feeling by either giving up or by pushing harder without strategy. They try to force results or chase outcomes that are not aligned with their reality. The truth is that action without alignment is often wasted energy. Action guided by awareness and realism is what creates sustainable progress. Take Tom, who dreamed of launching a YouTube channel, He imagined millions of views overnight and felt frustrated when no one watched his first videos. He considered quitting before he realized he had never done a reality check. He paused to observe what was happening in his niche. He studied successful creators, not to copy them, but to understand audience behavior trends. He assessed his own strengths, resources, and time availability. He realized that expecting overnight success was unrealistic, but consistent effort and strategic planning were achievable. He designed a plan to post one high-quality video every week, interact with his audience, and improve with every release. Within months, his channel gained traction and loyal followers. The results came because action was aligned with reality. A reality check begins with honest assessment. You must understand your current situation, including your skills, resources, knowledge, support system, and constraints. Avoid excuses and avoid wishing reality were different. Accept where you are without judgment, and then design steps that fit your circumstances. This clarity allows you to focus your energy on what actually matters rather than on endless busywork. Sarah, the entrepreneur, had faced repeated setbacks in her business. She had been working long hours trying to get clients without analyzing what was actually working. She paused and did a reality check. She listed her successes, failures, and resources. She noticed that her strongest results came from building relationships rather than cold pitching. She redesigned her daily actions to focus on meaningful connections and small experiments. Instead of chasing big deals, that shift turned her stagnant business into steady growth. Another aspect of reality-based action is breaking large goals into achievable steps. When the vision is too big, the mind resists and the body procrastinates. Small, manageable steps reduce overwhelm and create momentum. David the writer felt paralyzed by the thought of completing a 300-page book. He decided to focus on writing 100 words a day, observing his progress, and adjusting his plan as needed. Over time, the small steps multiplied into a completed book. Reality-based action also requires observation and adaptation. The world is constantly changing, and the path to success is rarely linear. You need to monitor results, learn from feedback, and adjust your approach continuously. Reiji, the software developer, learned this when preparing for interviews. He initially sent applications without preparation and faced repeated rejection. Once he assessed his approach, he changed his strategy, studied company cultures, tailored resumes, and practiced interviews. He adapted based on feedback and gradually saw progress. The key principle is to focus on what you can control. You cannot control the market, the economy, or other people's decisions, but you can control your learning, effort, planning, and consistency. By aligning your actions with reality, you reduce wasted energy and increase the likelihood of meaningful results. Small, consistent actions aligned with reality compound over time. They build skills, confidence, networks, and credibility. They reduce frustration and increase clarity. They create the feeling that progress is possible, even when the ultimate goal seems distant. Reality checks also help manage expectations. They prevent burnout by showing what is achievable within your constraints. They prevent disappointment by setting benchmarks based on observation rather than assumption. They allow strategic focus by revealing the most impactful. The moment you realize that reality is your guide and action is your tool, everything changes. You stop pushing blindly and start moving purposefully. You stop wishing for shortcuts and start designing a path that works. You stop fearing failure and start learning strategically. When nothing works, the most important step is to pause, assess your reality, honestly identify what actions are feasible and meaningful, and then take consistent steps aligned with that. Understanding this approach transforms confusion into clarity, frustration into momentum, and struggle into ease. By combining reflection, observation, and honest assessment with strategic action, you gain control over your circumstances. You understand that progress does not require luck or talent alone. It requires alignment between your reality and your efforts. Small, realistic steps taken consistently produce results that multiply and compound and make what once felt impossible feel achievable. Chapter 7. Embracing Uncertainty. When nothing works, the first instinct is to resist life, to fight circumstances, to demand certainty. We want control over outcomes, clarity over every step, and predictability over every situation. Yet the truth is, life is unpredictable. Change happens without notice. Plans fail, opportunities appear. The struggle often comes not from the external situation, but from resisting uncertainty. The moment you accept uncertainty, you gain freedom. The moment you embrace unpredictability, you gain power. Sarah, the entrepreneur, had built her first business with structured plans and predictable goals. She felt secure when everything was under her control. But a sudden market shift threatened her client base and her revenue. She panicked. She tried to force outcomes and push harder, but the results worsened. Then she remembered a lesson she had read about flowing with circumstances instead of resisting. She paused. She assessed what she could control, what she could influence, and what was beyond her control. She focused on adaptable strategies, experimenting with new offerings, building relationships, and learning continuously. By embracing uncertainty rather than fearing it, she discovered opportunities she had never imagined, and her business grew stronger than before. Embracing uncertainty is also a mindset shift. It requires letting go of the illusion that you must know every outcome before acting. It requires trusting your ability to adapt and learn along the way. Raj, the software developer, faced uncertainty when applying for roles in a rapidly changing industry. Companies changed hiring criteria, technology evolved, and positions disappeared overnight. He realized he could not control these factors. Instead of resisting, he focused on developing transferable skills, practicing interviews and networking continuously. By embracing uncertainty, he stayed agile and eventually landed a role that matched his passion. Uncertainty also fosters creativity and innovation. When the path is unknown, you are forced to experiment, try new approaches, and think outside conventional methods. Maya, the artist, struggled with a lack of recognition in her early career. She could not predict which styles would resonate with her audience, or which galleries would respond positively. Instead of fearing this unpredictability, she experimented with techniques, colors, and subjects she had never tried before. Each attempt was uncertain, yet it sparked new creativity and eventually led her to discover her unique style that distinguished her in the art world. Life is inherently uncertain, and trying to control every outcome leads to frustration and exhaustion. The most effective strategy is to flow with uncertainty and focus on what you can control. Your mindset, actions, and adaptability become your anchor while the external world remains fluid and unpredictable. Priya faced uncertainty in her health journey. She worried about inconsistent progress and feared setbacks. Her focus shifted from controlling every result to showing up consistently and learning from each experience. By embracing uncertainty, she developed resilience and sustained progress. Embracing uncertainty also strengthens resilience and patience. It teaches you to accept temporary setbacks as part of the process. It teaches you that not knowing is not failing, but observing, learning, and adjusting. It teaches you that life rewards adaptability more than rigidity, and effort applied with awareness more than effort applied blindly. The power of embracing uncertainty lies in releasing resistance and focusing energy on meaningful action rather than futile control. It allows you to pivot when necessary, to innovate when required, and to grow continuously even when results are delayed or unexpected. Transforms fear into curiosity, stress into opportunity, and doubt into learning. When nothing works, the resistance to uncertainty is often the real barrier. You push too hard, trying to control outcomes. You cling to the familiar and resist change. You ignore signals that the situation requires flexibility. The moment you embrace uncertainty, you start flowing with life. You experiment. You adapt, you learn, you notice patterns. You adjust, you grow. You begin to move in harmony with circumstances, instead of constantly against them. The lesson is simple yet profound. Life will always be unpredictable. Your plans will encounter obstacles. Your expectations will sometimes fail. Your efforts may not yield instant results. But when you embrace uncertainty, you turn unpredictability into an advantage. You gain freedom to act with clarity, focus, and creativity. You find calm in chaos, confidence in change, and solutions in situations that once seemed hopeless. By embracing uncertainty, you realize that nothing works until you stop resisting, and everything becomes easier when you learn to flow with the natural rhythm of life. Small, consistent actions aligned with awareness and adaptability create momentum, even in unpredictability. Challenges become lessons, failures become feedback, and struggle becomes opportunity. Chapter 8. Systems over willpower. When nothing works, the common advice is to push harder, rely on discipline, and summon more willpower. But willpower alone is limited. It is a muscle that tires easily. It is inconsistent and dependent on mood, energy, and external circumstances. The truth is, lasting progress rarely comes from sheer effort alone. It comes from creating systems, frameworks, and routines that make success automatic, consistent, and sustainable. Sarah, the entrepreneur, had relied on long hours and endless effort to grow her business. She would stay up late, sending emails, chasing clients, and trying to force results. Yet despite her energy, she felt exhausted and frustrated. She realized that her approach depended too much on willpower. She began building systems instead. She set daily routines for outreach. She created templates for proposals. She tracked leads in a simple, organized system and automated repetitive tasks. Her results improved dramatically with less stress because the system carried the work, even on days when her energy was low. Systems also reduce decision fatigue. They create a structure that guides action without requiring constant mental effort. David, the aspiring writer, struggled to maintain a writing habit relying on motivation alone. Some days he felt inspired, other days he felt blocked or distracted. His writing became inconsistent. Then he created a system. He chose a fixed time each morning to write 100 words, regardless of inspiration. He prepared his workspace the night before and tracked progress on a simple chart. Over time, the system made writing automatic, and the book slowly took shape without the need to constantly push himself. Willpower works for short bursts, but systems produce long-term results. Systems create momentum by embedding action into routine. They turn intention into habit. They allow consistency without constant struggle. Raj, the software developer who struggled to get job offers, realized this when he built a system for learning and applications. He set aside 1 hour daily for skill practice, another hour for customized applications, and another hour for networking. He tracked results and adjusted based on feedback. This system produced tangible progress even when motivation dipped or challenges arose. Maya, the artist, discovered the same principle with her creative practice. She would often wait for inspiration or try to create a masterpiece in a single sitting. Her progress was slow and inconsistent. When she built a simple system of daily sketching 30 minutes each morning, experimenting with one new idea per week, and sharing work weekly, she saw her creativity and recognition grow steadily. The system carried her forward without relying on fluctuating motivation. Systems also allow you to scale effort effectively. When actions are embedded in structure, you can handle larger goals without feeling overwhelmed. You multiply your impact without increasing stress. You create consistency that compounds results and builds confidence over time. Priya, in her fitness journey, realized this when she moved from relying on willpower to creating a structured plan. She scheduled workouts at the same time daily, tracked small progress markers, and gradually increased intensity. Her results became predictable and sustainable because the system made action automatic. The power of systems is that they work even when motivation is low, fear creeps in, or circumstances are unpredictable. They transform uncertainty into consistent progress. They remove reliance on fluctuating mental states and create a foundation for achievement. Small, repeated actions embedded in a system multiply over time and produce results far beyond effort alone. The lesson is clear. When nothing works, stop relying solely on willpower and start building systems. Design routines that make action automatic. Track progress. Measure results. Adjust where necessary. Embed habits into daily life. Automate repetitive tasks. Create frameworks that guide decisions and prioritize meaningful work. Systems carry you forward when energy is low and amplify results when effort is high. By focusing on systems over willpower, you stop exhausting yourself on sheer effort. You stop relying on temporary motivation. You stop repeating cycles of frustration and burnout. You start creating consistent momentum that compounds over time. Small structured actions embedded in simple systems turn struggle into ease, effort into results, and uncertainty into predictable progress. When everything seems impossible, the solution is not to push harder or try more. It is to design a system that works with reality, with your energy, and with your goals. The system becomes your engine, your scaffold, and your safety net. Small, consistent actions guided by structure create unstoppable momentum and make everything easier without relying on luck or endless effort. Chapter 9. Celebrate small wins. When nothing works, it is easy to focus only on what has not been achieved, to see failure in every setback, to discount progress, and feel frustrated and defeated. You look at your goals, the vision you have, and the obstacles in front of you, and the gap feels enormous and impossible. Yet the truth is, momentum is created, not by grand leaps, but by recognizing and celebrating small wins. Small wins are the building blocks of confidence, consistency, and long-term success. Sarah, the entrepreneur, had spent months trying to grow her business without seeing the results she expected. She focused entirely on big clients and high-revenue targets. She ignored every minor lead, every positive response, every small. Then she decided to start celebrating small wins. She recorded every positive client interaction, every compliment received on her product. Every small task completed consistently, each acknowledgement shifted her energy. She felt motivated to continue. She noticed patterns that worked, and she started building momentum. Small wins became stepping stones toward larger achievements, and gradually, her business began to grow steadily. Small wins also reinforce habit and consistency. When David, the aspiring writer, wrote his first 100 words each day, he celebrated it by noting it in his tracker. Even though it was a tiny step, it created a sense of accomplishment and motivated him to continue the next day. Over time, these small victories compounded into thousands of words and eventually a completed manuscript. The act of recognizing progress, no matter how small, made the journey manageable and satisfying. Maya, the artist, faced a similar struggle. She would create paintings and feel discouraged when they did not sell immediately or receive attention. She began celebrating finishing each piece, even if no one bought it. She celebrated experimenting with a new technique or completing a sketch each morning. Over time, her energy and confidence increased. She began producing more consistently, and her audience gradually grew. The simple act of celebrating small progress fueled her motivation and creativity. Celebrating small wins also trains the mind to focus on growth rather than failure. It rewires your perspective to notice what is working instead of obsessing over what is not. It allows you to cultivate gratitude and joy, even when the ultimate goal seems distant. Priya, who struggled with fitness, shifted her mindset by celebrating each completed workout, each improvement in strength, each healthy choice. She began to enjoy the process rather than fearing setbacks. She stayed consistent and eventually achieved results she had thought impossible. Another important aspect of celebrating small wins is that it builds resilience. When you acknowledge progress, you reinforce the belief that effort matters, even when challenges persist. Raj, the software developer, faced repeated rejections in his job search. He celebrated small wins, like completing a skill course, improving a resume, or networking with a professional each day. These small wins kept his confidence alive and prevented burnout. His resilience and consistent action eventually led to landing his dream role. Small wins are also about momentum. Momentum is built when each tiny step reinforces the next. When you celebrate small victories, you create positive energy that fuels further action. You stop feeling stuck and start moving forward, even if progress seems slow. You begin to trust the process and recognize that every effort matters. The key is to define small wins that are meaningful to you. They can be completing a task, learning a new skill, making progress on a goal, or overcoming a limiting belief. They do not need to be dramatic or visible to others. The act of acknowledging and celebrating them internally creates energy, motivation, and momentum. When nothing works, the instinct is to focus only on the distance to your goal and the failures along the way. This mindset keeps you stuck. It drains energy and discourages action. The most effective strategy is to notice, appreciate, and celebrate every small step forward. Every small achievement compounds over time. Every small victory strengthens confidence, persistence, and clarity. By embracing the practice of celebrating small wins, you transform struggle into momentum. You create an environment where effort is rewarded, even before results are fully visible. You train your mind to focus on growth, persistence, and positive reinforcement, rather than fear, frustration, or doubt. Small wins multiply, consistency strengthens, and gradually, what once felt impossible becomes achievable and effortless. Chapter 10. The Ultimate Do This. After exploring the struggles, failures, mindset shifts, small actions, systems, and celebrating wins, you may be wondering what it all leads to. What is the single principle that transforms everything when nothing works? The truth is deceptively simple, yet profoundly powerful. It is this: focus, alignment, and consistent action with awareness. When you combine clarity of purpose with realistic understanding, small strategic actions, and persistent effort, you create unstoppable momentum, and life begins to feel easier. Sarah, the entrepreneur, had tried everything from long hours to aggressive marketing to chasing big clients. She felt exhausted and frustrated until she finally implemented the ultimate approach. She paused, reflected on her reality, aligned her actions with what worked, focused on one key strategy at a time, built small, consistent systems, and celebrated each minor success. The difference was profound. Instead of forcing results, she flowed with her business. She noticed opportunities, improved steadily, and momentum built naturally. Her business grew, her energy returned, and challenges that once seemed insurmountable became manageable. The ultimate do this is not about magical shortcuts or instant solutions. It is about combining all the principles from previous chapters into a cohesive approach. It is about 1. Pausing and observing. Stop pushing blindly and notice patterns, feedback, and reality. 2. Understanding failure. Learn from what has not worked and identify the real root causes. 3. Small, consistent actions. Take manageable steps daily that compound over time. 4. Mindset shifts. Reframe challenges, release fear, embrace aligning with reality. Assess your situation honestly and design steps that work within your circumstances. 6. Embracing uncertainty. Let go of the need for control. Adapt to change and flow with life. 7. Building systems. Create routines, frameworks, and habits that make action automatic and sustainable. 8. Celebrating small wins. Recognize progress to maintain momentum, motivation, and confidence. Raj, the software developer, applied this ultimate approach to his career. He paused to review his failures, learned which strategies were effective, focused on improving one skill at a time, aligned applications with his real strengths, built a system for practicing and tracking progress, adapted to unexpected changes in hiring trends, and celebrated each small achievement. Along the way, his confidence grew, and he ultimately landed a role that matched his passion and potential. The common thread is alignment and focus. Small actions without awareness can be wasted effort. Motivation alone is fleeting. Willpower alone is exhausting. Reflection without action leads nowhere. Systems without adaptability become rigid. Celebrating wins without strategy is superficial. The ultimate "do this" integrates all these elements into a practical, repeatable approach that works in any area of life. Maya, the artist, used this principle to overcome years of struggle. She paused to understand her authentic style, analyzed which efforts were meaningful, created a consistent daily practice, adapted to audience response without losing authenticity, and celebrated each piece completed. She no longer chased trends or forced results. Instead, she flowed, adjusted, and persisted. Her recognition grew naturally, and her creativity thrived. The essence of the ultimate "do this" is consistency with awareness. Take deliberate, focused action every day, aligned with reality, guided by reflection, and reinforced with habits and systems. Small progress compounds over time, and results that once felt impossible emerge organically. This principle works because it respects reality, leverages human psychology, and builds momentum without relying on luck, excessive motivation, or brute force. Priya applied this principle in her fitness journey. She paused to assess her reality, started with small daily movements, aligned workouts with her energy and schedule, tracked progress in simple ways, adapted to setbacks without judgment, and celebrated each improvement. Over months, her health transformed, and what seemed impossible became effortless. In essence, when nothing works, the ultimate solution is not more effort, but smarter, aligned, and persistent action. The combination of clarity, reflection, focus, small steps, mindset, systems, adaptation, and celebration creates an unstoppable flow that makes life easier, results predictable, and challenges manageable. The key takeaway is simple yet transformative. Pause, align, act consistently with awareness, and trust the process. This principle turns struggle into momentum, frustration into clarity, confusion into focus, and effort into tangible results. It does not promise instant magic, but delivers lasting, practical transformation. When you embrace the ultimate "do this," you realize that nothing works until you pause, reflect, and align. But everything becomes easier when you combine focus, strategy, consistency, and awareness. Every action compounds, every small win matters, every adjustment counts, and slowly but surely life begins to feel effortless, even in the face of challenges. Conclusion: your path to effortless progress. After exploring failure, reflection, mindset, small actions, systems, and embracing uncertainty, you may finally see the pattern that connects everything. The journey you have read about is not about luck or extraordinary talent. It is about a practical approach that works in real life, even when circumstances seem impossible. The truth is, nothing works when you push blindly, rely only on willpower, or ignore reality. But everything becomes easier when you pause, observe, and act with alignment, focus, and consistency. Life will always present challenges, obstacles, and unexpected changes. You will face setbacks, moments of doubt, and times when results feel distant. You may even feel stuck and powerless. But remember that these moments are not signs of failure. They are signals, invitations, and opportunities to step back and apply what you have learned. To pause, assess, and act deliberately. The essence of this book can be distilled into one principle: pause, align, act consistently. This principle works because it honors reality. It leverages small, Compounding actions. It strengthens your mindset and builds resilience. It allows momentum to grow naturally without relying on luck or fleeting motivation. Every example in this book shows the power of this approach. Sarah transformed her business by pausing, analyzing what worked, and building consistent actions. Raj secured his dream job by focusing on strategic preparation and alignment. Maya discovered her authentic artistic voice through reflection and small, consistent creative experiments. Priya achieved her health goals by taking manageable steps, tracking progress, and celebrating small victories. David completed his book by writing imperfectly yet consistently each day. The key takeaway is that change is rarely instantaneous, but always possible. When you focus on small, aligned actions, celebrate progress, build systems, embrace uncertainty, and shift your mindset, the impossible slowly becomes inevitable. The journey is not about forcing results. It is about flowing with life while intentionally steering your actions in the right direction. Your path forward is simple yet powerful. Start with a pause. Observe where you are and what is working. Assess your reality and design actionable steps. Focus on small, consistent actions that align with your goals. Build systems that support momentum. Celebrate every win, no matter how small. Adjust and adapt when uncertainty arises. Reframe challenges as opportunities and maintain a mindset of growth. By applying these principles, you will notice energy returning clarity, replacing confusion, motivation replacing frustration, and results replacing struggle. Life will no longer feel like an endless uphill battle. Every step, every small win, every adjustment compounds into lasting progress. You will realize that nothing works until you act with awareness. But everything becomes easier when you integrate reflection, alignment, focus, and consistency into your daily life. Remember that the journey is your teacher. Every failure, obstacle, and moment of doubt carries a lesson. Every small action compounds into meaningful results. Every pause, reflection, and adjustment shapes the path ahead. You now hold the tools, strategies, and mindset to transform struggle into momentum and frustration into progress. You have the roadmap to make life easier, to act with intention, and to see results multiply naturally. The ultimate do this principle is yours to apply in any area of life. It is practical, actionable, and timeless. The choice is yours to take consistent action with awareness, to embrace uncertainty, to celebrate progress, and to build systems that sustain your efforts. Life will challenge you, but when you integrate these lessons, the impossible will become achievable, and the hard journey will feel easier than ever before. Your journey begins today. Pause, align, act consistently, trust the process, and watch everything start to work the end.